What's up, guys? So it looks like Nissan might be working on the next generation Z because there were a few spy shots of it testing out at the Nurburgring recently. From the photos at the Nurburgring, it doesn't look like there's much information because it's still using the existing 370Z's body. But from my perspective, there's a lot to learn just by looking at it. So let's start there. If you take a look at the body that they were using to test at the Nurburgring, this was an earlier version of the 370Z. This was literally the first iteration. Take a look at the front bumpers. It's really plain, and the Nissan 370Z was refreshed later on throughout the years to have the LED side markers on the front bumper. Not only that, if you look at the body of this 370Z, there weren't any other enhancements. It's even using the stock wheels and maybe stock tires, and it looks like maybe even stock brakes. The existing brakes, tires, and wheels may be adequate for what Nissan's planning to do with the next generation 370Z. Now, why would they use an earlier iteration? Because they could have used one that's current. Well, from my perspective, the first iteration did not have those LED lights in the front bumper. And as you can see from the photos, they have those air inlets to provide cooling into something that's behind the front bumper. Also looking at the top of the front bumper, you can see some holes there too to provide cooling. Now, think about this. Why would Nissan want to provide more cooling for an engine that's naturally aspirated? Because the current 370Z has a naturally aspirated V6, which the design should already be adequate enough for its cooling requirements. But being that there's holes in the front bumper now, one would suspect that it will be turbocharged or supercharged. Most likely it'll be turbocharged. Now, where would that be coming from? Well, being that the Nissan 350Z, Nissan 370Z, Infiniti G35, Infiniti G37, Infiniti Q50, Infiniti Q60, all pretty much share a similar platform, you would think that the most obvious answer would be the Nissan 370Z or the future Z using the existing VR30 DDTT from the Infiniti Q50 or Q60. And that's not impossible because in the past, they did make a 370Z Club Sport which had the VR30 DDTT in there. Fitment would probably be very similar anyways between the 370Z and the Q50 chassis. We all know they took photos of the Z testing at the Nurburgring, but I'm wondering if they got any video, because if we can hear the sound clips of this Z testing at the Nurburgring, then we can be able to tell if they're going to be using the VR30 DDTT in the car or not. Ooh, we might have been able to find out what engine they'll be using if we had that sound clip. So if you guys know of any sound clips on the internet somewhere, leave a link in the comment section below and I'll take a look at it. So let's assume that Nissan will be using the VR30. Now the big question is, will Nissan be using the VR30 for the existing chassis because we know it fits, or will they be using it for the next generation's chassis? Why am I saying this? Because Nissan is going through some financial hardships right now, and they're also taking Carlos, who took the company from bankruptcy to profitability, to court. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen with that case. So let's say they do use the VR30 DDTT into the existing chassis and give it some updates. Would people still buy it? Would you still buy it? Or should they just use the VR30 for the next generation Z, which they are probably going to call the 400Z? What would a next generation Z need to have in order to be profitable and also competitive? Well, it'll have to compete with the Toyota Supra, which was its past competitor. But being that the Toyota Supra is now being built by BMW and using the BMW B58, will the Nissan's VR30 be as capable of competing with it? Now, would people want to buy a modern day 240Z body style? I think if they go retro on this next generation Z, they would probably be very successful, because if you've seen the Mustang, the Camaro, the Challenger, the Charger, they went retro and they saw success. Maybe take some notes from them and go retro on the next generation Z. So how much horsepower should the next generation 370Z have? Well, the existing Q50, Q60 already has 400 horsepower, so I would target around that range which should be more than the Toyota Supra. But the thing about the Z is that it's probably going to be a little heavier. The Supra came in around 3,400 pounds, and the Z maybe 200 pounds heavier than that, which I think that would be an issue. Even at 200 pounds, they should be able to drop the weight to around the Toyota Supra's weight, or if lighter if possible, because the existing Z is already fairly heavy for being naturally aspirated, and if they're going to add plumbing for turbochargers and intercoolers, it's going to be that much heavier. So let me know what you think about the next generation Z in the comment section below. Do you really want them to use the existing platform, or do they just need to get rid of it because it's over a decade old now and give us a new chassis to work with? Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.